On a Japanese forum called Nikoniko, an anonymous user shared a bizarre experience they had while hitchhiking across Japan with a friend. The strange events revolved around a creepy family they encountered one night in a rundown RV. To this day, the poster referred to as the thread starter or OP isn't sure whether those people were even human. This post has since been dubbed an S-tier horror story, with claims that 98% of readers were left with lingering psychological shadows after reading it. But don't worry, I specifically checked Japanese netizens' reviews this time, and most of them say the story's plot outweighs its horror. It's more of an absurd kind of terror. I got curious about what exactly they went through, so I've put this together to share with everyone. With that, let's dive into this episode's story. Asterisk the Hitchhiking Tale asterisk. This incident took place in 2002. At the time, the op, whom we'll call Little A, had just graduated not long ago. Little A described themselves as the type who wouldn't act unless pushed to the brink, living by the motto, when the ship reaches the pier, it'll naturally straighten out. So, after graduating, they didn't rush to find a proper job, and instead continued living off odd jobs, enjoying a relatively free schedule. That summer, Little A and their close friend, Hoi, gathered at home for a casual chat. As they talked, the conversation drifted to an impulsive idea: why not hitchhike across Japan? Little A and Hoi had known each other since signing up for university, and their bond had always been strong. Hoi shared Little A's laid-back, go-with-the-flow personality. Even now, he was still happily scraping by with part-time work. But Hoi had one fatal flaw: he was a total womanizer. The type whose brain shut off the moment a girl appeared. Hoi had gotten into plenty of trouble over women in the past, so when the hitchhiking idea came up, his eyes practically sparkled. He declared it a brilliant plan, vowing to meet a woman in every town they passed through. And so, Little A and Hoi started discussing their travel plans, though calling it a plan might be generous. It was incredibly rough. They decided to fly to Hokkaido first, then hitchhike their way back to their hometown in Kyushu. Once the plan was set, Little A grew excited about the journey. Naturally, the prospect of a romantic encounter along the way only sweetened the deal. Soon after, Little A quit their part-time job. They'd been planning to switch jobs anyway, and Hoi successfully took time off work. They booked flights to Hokkaido and began packing. 3 weeks later, they boarded the plane to Hokkaido. They landed at Sapporo's New Chitos airport around noon. Instead of starting their hitchhiking adventure right away, Little A, unaccustomed to flying, felt exhausted and decided to rest at a hotel for the day. Hoi, on the other hand, was brimming with energy. He announced he was kicking off his grand romance plan and didn't return until the next morning. The next day, Little A spotted Hoi in the hotel lobby. The guy was grinning ear to ear, practically glowing, and flashed an okay hand gesture the moment they met. Clearly, his romance plan had gone well the night before. After breakfast, their hitchhiking journey officially began. For both Little A and Hoi, it was their first time hitchhiking. They were a mix of nervous and excited. Without a detailed plan like where to hitch or what kind of cars to aim for, they figured they'd just wing it and go wherever the rides took them. Unsurprisingly, things didn't go smoothly at first. They stood by the roadside for an hour, but not a single car stopped. As they chatted and speculated whether night might be a better time to hitch, another half-hour passed before their first ride pulled over. It was a long-haul truck. Though it only took them as far as the next town, it was progress. Even that short distance thrilled them. From this first ride, they picked up some tips. Trucks were the easiest to hitch. Not only did they travel long distances, but the drivers were usually friendly. Chatting with the driver also confirmed that hitching at night was indeed easier. By the third day, Little A and Hoi were getting the hang of it. They even set some ground rules. If they hitched a ride with a truck driver, they'd offer cigarettes. For private cars, they'd give candy. These small gifts were pre-bought from convenience stores. Whenever they got a ride in a private car, Hoi's charm shone through, making everyone laugh and creating a warm atmosphere. Once, they even hitched a ride with 3 girls. The car smelled amazing, and both admitted it was a highlight of the trip. By the 4th day, they'd reached Honshu. With growing experience, they began to savor the journey, sampling local foods, cherishing each rare encounter, and setting more rules. Shower daily if possible. Stay at an internet cafe every other night to save money. Sometimes, kind drivers even invited them to stay at their homes, which they deeply appreciated. But 2 weeks into this carefree adventure, one night in a remote mountain village in the Tohoku region, little A and Hoi stumbled into a terrifying ordeal that would haunt them for life. That evening, after getting dropped off at a convenience store along a national highway, they waited for their next ride. 2 hours passed with no luck. The muggy heat left them tired and thirsty, and their moods soured. Hoi grumbled, "Getting dumped at a place this remote sucks. We should have begged that last driver to let us crash at his place." The driver had mentioned his home was just a 10-minute drive from the store, but they hadn't asked for details. Now, it was too late past midnight. They decided to take turns. One would flag down cars while the other rested inside the store. The store manager was kind, even offering, "If you really can't get a ride, I'll drive you to the city." This warmth in a strange land touched them deeply. Another hour and a half passed with no cars stopping or even passing by. Just as they were about to ask the manager for help, an RV rolled into the parking lot. This marked the beginning of their nightmare. The RV was garishly painted, with a large cross plastered on the front. The door opened, and a man in his 60s stepped out. His outfit was odd, a wide-brimmed cowboy hat paired with a suit. He strode into the store, where Little A was resting. Little A glanced up and saw him toss a pile of bandages and 2 1.5-liter bottles of cola into his basket. At checkout, the man kept staring at Little A with a strange look, making them uneasy. Little A ignored him, flipping through a magazine. After paying, the man left. Soon, it was Little A's turn to flag cars. Stepping outside, they found Hoi chatting with the man. Turns out, he'd agreed to give them a ride. At first, Little A had found the guy's stare and outfit off-putting, but now he seemed friendly, maybe just an eccentric outdoorsman. They climbed into the RV, but the moment Little A stepped inside, an indescribable unease hit them. Everything felt inexplicably strange. First, they noticed 2 identical middle-aged men, around their 40, dressed in matching plaid shirts, pants, shoes, even their bald hairstyles and sitting postures were identical. Exhausted and sleep-deprived, Little A froze, brain struggling to process the sight. Hoi stood speechless beside them. There were others in the RV, which wasn't odd for a vehicle like this. Twins weren't inherently strange or malicious, but the atmosphere was inexplicably eerie, something only those present could understand. Besides the twins, an elderly woman, maybe in her 70s, sat in the passenger seat. The driver introduced her as his wife and the twins as his sons. The family struck Little A as bizarre. The driver looked 60, his wife much older, yet the twins seemed at least 40. Something felt off, though Little A couldn't pinpoint why. As they stood there, dumbfounded, the driver shouted, "Sit down already." The RV lurched forward. While driving, the man introduced his wife as St. Josephine. Little A, startled by the name, studied her. She faced forward, never turning, wearing a white summer dress resembling a wedding gown, her face caked in thick makeup like a kabuki performer. The driver called himself St. George, and the twins were Blaze, the red-faced one, and Blue with a blue birthmark. Little A found their names bizarre. This family was too weird. Exchanging a glance with Hoi, they silently agreed to get off at the first chance. The old couple up front kept talking to them, while Little A and Hoi forced calm responses. The twins, meanwhile, sat silently, gulping cola in unison, even burping at the same time. The eerie scene made Little A's skin crawl. Their patience was wearing thin. 15 minutes in, Hoi broke. "Hey, mister, this is far enough, we'll get off here." But St. George brushed it off, refusing to stop. Josephine chimed in, warning about bears outside, insisting it was too dangerous. Despite their pleas, "No, really, we're fine." The driver urged them to at least stay for dinner, showing no intent to let them go. Little A thought, it's 2 a.m. who eats dinner now, ignoring the couple's chatter. They whispered to Hoi, "This is bad." Hoi nodded. Before they could strategize, George bellowed, "Hey, I'm talking to you, didn't you hear me?" The twins burst into synchronized laughter, cementing Little A's fear. They were in danger. Soon, the RV veered off the highway onto a mountain road. Little snapped, standing up. "Mister, thanks so much, but we're getting off here." George replied flatly, "Dinner's ready," and kept driving. Josephine added, "It's delicious, you must try it." Whispering, Little and Hoy agreed jumping out now was too risky, but they'd bolt the moment the RV stopped. After 30 minutes, it pulled into a clearing by a riverbank. As it slowed, George cheered, "We're here." Then, from the back door, assumed to be a bathroom, a child's giggle echoed. Little A's blood ran cold. Asterisk was someone else in their asterisk. Josephine shouted, "Shoo, are you hungry?" A young voice replied, "Mommy, I'm starving, I want food." So there was a kid named Shoo, oddly, the most normal name in the family. As Little processed this, the twins suddenly yelled in unison, "Shoo, don't come out." The old couple joined in, followed by a collective burst of laughter. The sheer weirdness was overwhelming. Hoy whispered, "These freaks are terrifying, we've gotta run." The moment the RV stopped and the door opened, they bolted. But stepping out, they froze. A bonfire blazed nearby, and beside it stood a towering man nearly 6'3" in a suit and cowboy hat. Whistling asterisk, the Mickey Mouse March asterisk, he hacked at a furry animal leg on a table with a large knife. Their escape plans stalled as George approached. "Come, sit over here." Hoy stammered, "We need to use the bathroom." Dragging Little behind the RV, they glimpsed a figure at the rear window. Bulging forehead, low-set eyes, balloon-like hands pressed against the glass, shouting, "Mommy." Terrified, they sprinted into the woods like startled rabbits, ignoring the family's shouts behind them. Hoy muttered, "We're done, we're done." They ran blindly, tripping repeatedly but too scared to stop, hoping to reach a road. After an hour, no lights appeared, they were lost. Exhausted, they collapsed in the silent forest, hearts pounding. Hoy panted, I feel like they're chasing us." Little reassured him, "They're just weird, they wouldn't eat us. They're probably not coming." Hoy, still shaken, said, "That last figure Shoo, right? Nearly pissed myself. What about our bags?" Little checked their pockets. "We're lucky, phones and wallets are here. Clothes are a lost cause." The absurdity hit them, and they burst into laughter. But the forest's oppressive darkness and stench snapped them back. Bears or boars, real or not, made staying dangerous. Too scared to risk returning to the riverbank, they rested on a fallen log, chatting until exhaustion knocked them out. Hours later, Little jolted awake. It was past 4 a.m., the sky faintly brightening. Hoy was gone. Panicking, Little turned to see him clutching a stick, scanning the trees. Then, asterisk, the Mickey Mouse March asterisk whistled faintly in the distance. Hoy hissed, "They're looking for us." They bolted again, the dawn light aiding their speed. After 20 minutes, they stumbled into an abandoned parking lot, glimpsing a town through the trees. Relieved, Hoy clutched his stomach, needing a bathroom. A filthy restroom stood nearby. Little A, wary of pursuit, kept watch while Hoy went in. Moments later, Hoy shouted, "Little A, I hear crying." Listening, Little heard a girl sobbing from the women's restroom. Hoy urged him to check, but Little hesitated. Alone in the mountains, it felt ominous. "Hello, are you okay?" he called. No reply, just louder sobs. Then, a car approached. Fearing the RV, Little rushed into the men's room, banging on Hoy's stall. "Get out, car's coming." It might be them. Hoy stumbled out, pale, and they peeked outside. The garish RV rolled in. Trapped, they hid behind the restroom, holding their breath as footsteps neared. The old man entered the men's room, muttering nonsense. The twins followed, then Josephine's voice complained about no toilet paper in the women's side. Oddly, the girls' crying continued, unnoticed by the family. After they left, Little and Hoy puzzled over it. The old man said, "He'll be here soon," followed by the twins grumbling, a slap, and their sobs. 15 minutes later, Josephine announced, "He's here." Footsteps approached, accompanied by that chilling whistle. The girls' cries turned to screams, then silence. Little peeked out, seeing the towering man stride away. He shouted, "There you are." Little ducked back, heart racing, but the family's laughter and odd remarks, such heavy sins, repent, didn't seem aimed at them. The RV soon drove off. Daylight broke as Little rushed into the women's restroom. Every stall was empty. Hoy whispered, "You felt it too, right?" There was no girl. Baffled, they wondered if it was a hallucination. The family hadn't reacted to the cries either. Deciding to avoid the highway, they trekked through the woods, reaching it 2 hours later. With no luggage and their trip derailed, Little suggested returning to the convenience store. They reluctantly hitched a truck ride back. The driver, familiar with the area, dropped them off after hearing their edited tale of getting lost camping. At the store, they recounted the night to the manager. His face twisted oddly. "What RV? Last night, you two just walked off down the highway. I called after you, but you didn't answer." I felt awkward. Confused, Little insisted they'd seen the RV stop here, the old man checking out. The manager's bewilderment mirrored theirs. Was he lying? Connected to the family? It seemed unlikely. In the restroom later, they heard water and that whistle again. Furious, they stormed the stall only to find a high schooler, not the family. Apologizing, they asked the truck driver for one last ride to town, offering cigarettes. He agreed. Too surreal to report, they skipped the police. Exhausted, they slept through the drive, waking to eat noodles with the driver. Later, Little spotted the RV rusted, decayed, tires flat outside an abandoned diner. Checking inside, their bags were there, rotted as if decades old. A noise from the back door sent them screaming back to the truck. The driver, pale, admitted seeing a cowboy-hatted figure whistling *, the Mickey Mouse March *. Little asked about the area's past. The driver mentioned a young woman's murder in the mountains years ago, plus wild boars. Dropped off, they crashed at a hotel, later returning home by bullet train. Years later, in their 30s with stable lives, the nightmare lingered. At a reunion, that tune as a ringtone nearly stopped their hearts. Little still dreams of the family, especially the whistling giant forever scarred. That's the full story. Curious about the whistle? I'd mimic it, but I'm no musician, plus I'd hate to get sued, haha. That's tonight's bedtime tale. I'm Ankuming, see you next time. Good night.